The amount of times that I've tried to film this is endless. So here I am, just got out of the chiropractor, and I'm like, you know what? I have like a half hour on my meter. And typically, like, I'll sit in here and read something, but I was like, you know what? I'll just film it quick so that we can just like move on with the vlogs. Hey guys, welcome back to another vlog. This is a super exciting one. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Ashley. If not, I'm glad to see you again. It's been a really long time since I posted on YouTube. Far too long. I love this space. It's my favorite by far. And I'm really happy to finally be feeling better and be back. I really wish that I had the energy to film, to post this much sooner, but this has been such a roller coaster. I haven't even said it yet. I'm pregnant. Colin and I are expecting number 3. You guys, we're expecting another boy. We were not gonna find out. We wanted it to be, well, I didn't want to find out. I thought it would be so worth it. I have a few friends that have done it, and I never thought that I would do that, but I was like, that would be so fun. Like, we already have 2 boys. If we have another boy, to me, that's dreamy. I didn't feel like, I don't feel like I need a girl. And if it is a girl, like, amazing. I have 2 boys and a little girl. What more could you ask for? Literally nothing. So I felt like it was such a win-win. But I'm so excited to have 3 little boys running around our house. Boy energy is just the best, and I love it, and I'm so excited and grateful. So we were not gonna find out. Colin agreed with me after a little bit of pushback. Then they ended up calling me, and they ended up running my blood on accident, and the nurse called me and she's like, Ashley, I have the gender, I know what it is. And I was like, we're not finding out. And she was like, oh. And at that time, my sister had been in town visiting for the first time. You know, we were going through some things I'm going to share with you guys that we were going through. And I just felt like it was a sign that maybe it was something that I needed in that moment to find out. And although I had all of the intentions of finding out the second the baby came out, which would be, again, so worth it, I gave in and I went to the office. I picked up a little note, and then we went to my parents' house. We FaceTimed Colin's parents, and we just opened it up, and it was just like, I didn't have a feeling about this one. My oldest, I didn't have a feeling. My second, I knew was a boy. Like, I just know it. And this one, I was like, I don't know, it could go either way. But boy mom energy all the way. Love it. Live it every day. It's the best. I'm 20 weeks today, actually. And yeah, it's been a really crazy roller coaster. My first was born full term. I had him by C-section because he was stuck, but everything else about the birth was beautiful, perfect, amazing. He just was stuck. Poor little babe came out all squished. Sorry, it's probably a little loud. Then my second was a complete surprise. I had him at 28 weeks. He spent 2 whole months in the NICU, which was the most traumatizing thing that I have ever experienced in my life. I still look back now and I cannot believe that that is something that we went through, that we made it through, and I look at him every day now, and thankfully he didn't have any issues from the get-go. I had the most beautiful yet traumatizing birth. I remember the doctor looking at me and saying, like, this is such a beautiful day yet such a sad and scary day for you. Just kind of validating what I should be feeling, because I didn't know what to feel. It was all so fast. And I had just been to the doctor that Friday, and then Sunday, boom, I was in labor. I was 5 centimeters dilated. I was having some back pain, which was contractions. I was gonna leave there with having my second child, but I wasn't gonna leave there with him. I still get emotional thinking about it because it was so difficult, and no mother should ever have to be without her child the first 2 months. And every single day was a struggle. Every single day. I've never, ever felt any type of depression. And that depression was to the depths of, like, I really understand how people get to rock bottom. Like, it just was, even though I knew he was going to be coming home eventually, just that bond, you know, you grow with your baby and your baby needs their mom. And, you know, it just was, it was so difficult. So, you know, going into this pregnancy, I knew that I was going to be high risk, but I really felt in my heart that it was just a fluke. You know, I had my first baby full term, and this one was just a fluke, and it happened to not be a fluke. So I was recommended the most incredible midwife here in St. Pete from a girl I went to high school with, and the connection that I have with her, like, I am just absolutely obsessed. She's been like my right hand. She's been my rock. Like, I'm so grateful for her. Her personality is just 12 out of 10. She doesn't care. Like, she just is very vocal about her opinions and what she feels, and she's confident. And we, you know, kind of had a plan from the get-go. I knew that I wouldn't be able to deliver with her because that practice doesn't do VBACs, even though they believe in them and they really think that it's the best option. So from the get-go, she's like, we can, you know, you can continue to come here until we figure everything out. So I was seeing her for a while, and then I just didn't feel good. My intuition was telling me, and you know, everybody just says, it's okay, you're just in your head, you're just worried, you're just scared, you know, just trying to reassure you. And I just knew in my gut. And so one night I went to the emergency room, and they're not equipped for any of that. Like, they know the basics of it, but not anything as to what was pertaining to my case, which is legitimately, my doctor was telling me, maternal fetal medicine doctor was telling me, specialist that was telling me that what I'm going through is 3%. I went to the hospital. I had the most incredible, I think he was a nurse practitioner, but he was just, I was sobbing and just like breaking down to him, and he was just an angel. I literally believe he was an angel sent from God to me. He was everything that I needed in that moment. He was so reassuring. He was gentle. He was kind. He was loving. It's so funny when I see these parking enforcements, I think of Zootopia, Judy Hopps, because my son is obsessed with Zootopia. He's been since the first time he watched it when he was like 2, and he was literally Nick for Halloween. So if you know, you know. So he was just incredible. But again, they're not equipped to really deal with that. So when I was discharged, I called my midwife and I was like, I just left, and she's like, we need to get you in to a specialist. So at that point, I went to a specialist. This is just the really quick version. I don't want to bore you. I went to the specialist, and we found that I had a short cervix. So typically, I feel like everybody's different. You know, you hear something different from everybody, but typically your cervix is like anywhere from a 3 to a 4. That's where they like to see it. 2.5 is really the lowest that before they will intervene in it with anything. At least this is how my practice goes. I'm sure it's not the same for everybody, but mine at that point was measuring at like a 1.8. So it was really, really scary because I was so early. I think at that point I was only 16 weeks. At that point, you know, it's just scary because there's nothing that they can do. And so the one thing that they could do that I didn't know about, do something called a cerclage, where they go in and they sew your cervix shut. This was a whole new can of worms for me. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anybody. I only knew one person that had gone through this, but it was, again, a different situation. Nobody to talk to besides Google, which is a no-no. It's like, literally, for me, it's my worst enemy. It does nothing. It doesn't serve me in any way, you know, because we're all looking for the right the answer we want to hear in that moment, but it's not, because every case is different. Every, you know, situation is different. So in that moment, I was at the specialist by myself. They confirmed about the short cervix. Colin was at home sleeping. The kids were with my parents because I was going to the specialist. I knew I was going. And I was all alone in that moment. And I remember, this was obviously only 5-6 weeks ago, all of the nurses came in, the doctor came in that would be performing the cerclage, and then the doctor that I was speaking to about this, and I was asking him all these questions, and I was overwhelmed with emotion and scared and worried and freaking out because I where I'm at in my life now, like I would 100% be doing like a home birth and not having any interventions, and now all of a sudden like this whole new can of worms is opening and I don't know what to do and I have to make these decisions. And so we're talking about these statistics, and it really reminded me of when we were going into labor with Jameson, and all these different specialists were coming in. Hi, I'm going to be, you know, looking at his heart, and I'm going to be looking at his breathing, and I'm going to be looking at this, and all these specialists with all of these statistics coming in, and it just was scary. It was terrifying. And so it's kind of like this flashback of the trauma that you think that kind of like went away, but it just kind of comes back up. And the nurse is like giving me her phone to call Colin because they wanted to do it right like that night. And you know, they're hugging me and I'm just hyperventilating, and it was the most, now that I look back, I remember I was telling my sister, it was like the most dramatic, like rightfully so, situation. It was like a reality TV show times 1,000. Like it was so insane, the experience, but they were all comforting and loving, and there's nothing like having a woman right there too. And after talking about all these statistics, I looked at the doctor and I said, I just have one more question. And he said, what? And I said, if I was your daughter, what would you do? I mean, this man's been doing this for 30 something years. And he was like, I would do the cerclage. He was so thrown off by that question, but I felt like that was fair game. I really did. And I remember being like, I just want to talk to Michelle, who's my midwife. I'm like, I just want to talk to Michelle. And I swear, like the doctor, this specialist, 35 years, no, they all knew her because she used to be a nurse. And they call her, or they get her like phone number, and I'm like, Michelle? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, it's Ashley. And she's like, well, what's going on? I'm like, you know, she's like, you're in the best hands ever. Whatever he says, like, I completely trust him. Like, this is where we need to be. And I just, now looking back, even though it was, again, such a traumatizing moment, I'm so grateful to have had all of those angels sent from God to help lead the way for me. Finally got a hold of Colin. You know, he's obviously trying to stay strong for me, but worried, like, you know, you never think these things can happen to you, and they're very, very, very rare. So pregnancy is already, you know, we've already been filled with everybody else's story and all of these fears and all these worries, instead of really focusing on our own story. And you know, one of the things that my mom always told me was, you might be up every single night worried about something that will never happen, so you have to wait until something happens. And so I definitely don't ever want this to scare anybody, or if anything, I wanted to empower people to just live in their own story and not take on anyone else's story. Again, this is all really, really rare, but this is also something that so many people are facing, and feel alone. I wish that I would have had somebody to talk to. Thank God, like I said, this team around me. So that night they wanted to do it. She's like, go home, don't eat anything, come in at 5, we'll get you checked in, and we'll do the procedure about 7:30. So we, you know, get in the hospital, they run everything, and I mean, I was just getting I don't even know what drugs I was getting. I was going to have a surgery, you know, which was really, really difficult for me. I knew that I had to do it, which is why I did it, but it's definitely not what I pictured or wanted. Not that anybody does, but just again, the lifestyle changes, I just, you know, you worry about those things are passing through the placenta, and of course they need to be done. But we go in, I'm getting all of these medications, and I'm like, I'm hooked up to all these things. And then, you know, they take me back. I had to get a spinal, which is pretty much like an epidural. And I didn't want Colin to come back because I didn't want him to see that. And I didn't know what to expect, but I just know that I would not want to see somebody that I love. And then that kind of reminded me of when we were having Jameson and they offered my parents and him to go up to the NICU to kind of prepare to see what was going to happen, like what these babies were going to look like. And I don't remember if they offered me, because obviously at that point they would have to transfer me. I was hooked up to everything. I don't think they did, but I just was like, I really want you guys to go so that you can be like stronger than me. And I remember how devastated they were when they came down and they saw those babies and how hard it was for them to see it, for anybody to see. And so I did not want him, he could have been back there with me. I didn't want him because, again, I didn't want that picture in his head, or I didn't want him to feel like he had to be strong for me. Like, I just kind of wanted to do it on my own. Sorry. Again, the staff was incredible. Typically they only do the cerclages during the day and then you go home later. So there was like, I don't even know how many extra people in the room at that time, but they obviously wanted to see it. There was some residents and, you know, tons of I mean, had to be at least 8 people in there with me, who prepared me for everything until the doctor came in. It was so much preparation and the procedure only lasted like 10 minutes. It was crazy. So I got the spinal and I remember just holding onto the nurse's hand, just like, what is about to happen? Like, this is just a whole new journey. Like, again, sad and like, it's really hard to explain. I can't come up with a word for it because it was just extremely traumatizing, but at the same time, like, I'm so grateful that that was even an option. And everybody was so kind and gentle and amazing. And so it was like, you know, and the anesthesiologist that did my spinal was like such a teddy bear. Like, he just made you feel that, like, comforting. And the nurse came in and I just remember her just touching my face and rubbing my hair, like, just like a motherly figure. And I got my spinal, which I don't feel like is bad. Obviously doesn't feel good. They did the whole procedure, which, like I said, it was, but it was so, just everything, the bright lights, and it's a surgery. You're in this surgical room and everybody's looking at you and your legs are, my legs were literally in like these ceiling stirrups. Like, it just was. And I was trying to crack some jokes. Another thing my mom always says, like, if you weren't laughing, you'd be crying. And they were cracking up, and I was just trying to kind of make light of it. And I remember just being like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? It was really easy, painless. I luckily didn't have any cramping or bleeding. Again, I was so grateful that I decided not to have Colin in the room because I didn't need both of us traumatized. I kind of wanted to protect him from that, which sounds really odd, but I knew that it was something that I could do alone and I could save him already being, you know, my husband and not being able to do anything or take any of the pain, or, you know, was already hard enough. So I just didn't want to add to that. And then I stayed the night, which I was really glad that it happened at night because they could monitor me all night. And then they checked in the morning, everything was good. And then I was gonna follow up in a week, just to see how the stitch was looking. So I went in for my checkup and my cervix was completely shut, thankfully. Really thick, which you want it to be thick and you don't want it to be thinning out until you're obviously full term and ready to have a baby. And no infection, and, you know, it went from like a 1.8 to a 2.7 in length. So that was incredible. A week later, we had a trip to Disney planned for some months. I wanted to go for my 30th birthday, which is in July, but obviously that wouldn't be happening anyways. It would be so hot and I'd be way too pregnant. Best trip ever. I need to do a vlog on that. But I was like, you know, the doctor came in and he's like, no bed rest. I know every doctor is different. He's like, no bed rest. There's just no research to back it up. It causes more harm than good. I would assume, you know, everybody's situation is different, but besides my cervix, that was really it. That was as far as the issue. He's like, you know, you have 2 little kids at home, just go about your life, you know? And so that's what I did. We went to Disney. We had the best time ever. I honestly felt really, really good. I just had what I think would be like my 4th week appointment, and my cervix looked amazing. So here we are. I'll go again on the 14th, on April 14th. And if everything is good, then I'll just go back to my other provider and I will just go on with my pregnancy until they remove the stitch, which is, he said around 34 weeks, they'll remove the stitch. It's not a procedure like I did to get it in. They literally just take it out like you're getting a pap smear, like an annual. And then, which is crazy. I don't know. I don't even understand. And then wait for the baby to come, which is so exciting. I have been feeling all the things, mentally, emotionally, physically. I don't know if I used to feel these things with my other pregnancies because I wasn't as high alert. I never even knew that this world existed. Now I know that it does, and so, you know, the worry just doesn't go away. But I'm finally now at 20 weeks feeling like I can breathe and enjoy this and just manifest an incredible birth. And I just picture our son, you know, running around with his brothers and just enjoying his life the way that, you know, my preemie has been enjoying his life. He is like a little firecracker. It's insane. But other than that, I'm definitely gonna, this was a little long, but I wanted to share all of that with you guys. This was important for me. And I'm just gonna go on without the vlogs. I'm gonna share like my first trimester, second, third, all of the things that I'll be packing, just what I'm feeling. This is just a reminder that what I've realized getting older, and, you know, obviously now all of my friends have children, I've realized that we all have a story. So even though this was really heavy, this is my story. This is not yours. This is not to instill fear or worry into anybody. We all have our struggles with fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, parenting. Like, it never ends. You know, there's not one person in my life that hasn't gone through something. So just know that you're not alone. It's never a perfect story, whether people decide to share it or not and want to be private about it. Know that you will make it through whatever it is that you're going through. I'm living proof of it. Just keep going, and take care of yourself. And so I'm really excited to share this journey with you guys. You guys, thank you for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, to know that anybody cares about this is insane. It's also insane that strangers want to know more about your life and support you more than people that you know. That to me is always mind-blowing. I'm so grateful for this space. I think that's it. I covered it all. So half-baked, you guys, halfway there, and so grateful. You guys, God is good. God is great. No matter what it looks like, know that whatever He has written for you is everything and more. No matter, you know, what season you're in, just know that it's gonna turn out exactly how it was always meant to turn out. I'll see you guys in the next vlog.